Hey guys, welcome to another fantastic super special episode of DevTips. I am just recording this quick introduction under an overpass. Look at that thing, it's like a bridge or something. I have an episode for you where we're going to be talking to another contributor from GitHub, Dylan. You may know him as @zdesign on GitHub, and he has contributed so much. We're going to talk over his pull request, and we're going to talk over what his goals were and like how he went about it. Some really interesting stuff. Things like multiple animation options, JavaScript fallbacks, like CSS animations and stuff like that. So really cool guy, really cool video. There's one problem with my recording. I recorded on my phone as well there, and I couldn't see the phone, so like it's like my head is like this the whole time. So anyway, if you can ignore that, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will be back here on Monday with when we're going to start the next bit. What's it called? Client section, the testimonials, something like that. Take care, guys. Keep on hacking. We'll see you Monday. Welcome back, everybody, to DevTips. We have another super awesome episode this week. Yet another contributor is being featured on DevTips because you guys are just making these awesome pull requests, and you guys are like doing more work than I am these days. It's pretty great. So right here we have Dylan Spicker. Hey, say hello, Dylan.
Hey.
How are you tonight?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now you're in Canada?
Yeah, up in Ontario.
Oh, right over on the east side.
Yeah.
So it's pretty late for you tonight. Thanks for staying up this late to have a chat with me.
Not a problem at all. It's my pleasure.
Great. So Dylan has been contributing, like I've said, to the artist theme, and he's done a lot of really cool work, and I just wanted to give him a little bit of a platform to talk about what he's doing, and also it makes it easier for me to just kind of like let these things come in, and then I can focus on the next section. So let's take a look at your pull request. Do you mind sharing your screen with us? And then you can just kind of walk us through the bigger parts and like the things that might impact the way people would use the artist theme as it is.
All right. So basically with my pull request, what I've tried to do here is, well, there's two parts to it really. The first part, and what I was doing first, was to fix up the animation for when you hover over one of the thumbnails. And basically, at first I was trying to clean up the CSS that was used the first time to do the animation, and that was what we had pulled from bounce.js, and we had to sort of jig the clap properly.
The what?
Your pulse thing. So what I tried to do at first was just clean up those classes.
Right.
But then from there, I decided to take it upon myself to allow the user to choose the animation that they want to use for the hover. So when you had first started doing, let's see where it is over here. When you first started building it, you were trying a number of different animations, and I figured there's a chance that the user may like one animation more than another. Mm-hmm. And so basically what I went in and did was within the, where is it here? In the tools, I created a new folder called animations, and basically just coded a number of animations where I set the initial conditions and then the ending conditions of the animation. And I just did this for all sorts of different effects where it comes down from the top or from the left or it fades in or whatnot. And then from here, I went into the actual work.sas file, and over here, right, this section.
Would you be able to, would you be able to zoom in your text a little bit? Is that easy for you to do?
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, we want to be able to see it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so this section was the section with the where we had originally defined the animations, and we had defined what we wanted it to start off as and what we wanted it to finish as. And so basically all I'm doing here is I've removed all of the animation classes from these selectors here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just extending what I've called animation start, and then down here somewhere, right here, I extend animation. So I've defined a variable in my all.sass right here called animation, where I just gave the animation a name, and I define it to be whichever animation I'd like it to be. So in this case, I'm defining it to be top down, which is just comes from the top down into it, which I think is one of the first ones we were working on.
Yeah.
Right. So all of these animations, they've all just been given a class name where the initial conditions are animation start underscore and then the animation name, and then the ending conditions are just the animation name as you would define in the variable. And so then what this allows us to do is just go into our Sass file here, or in the settings if you're running with the Jekyll version that's compatible, or have your workaround set there, and just change this from, right now it's top down, but I could do something like 8 in, save that, come back and refresh. This is the right one. Maybe it's over here, actually. Yeah, and so then the animation's fading in. And so I've gone through and I think I've defined 10 or 11 presets right now that you can just change in the Sass file here, your settings file, and just define what you want the animation to be. But it's also it's built in such a way that it's rather easy to go in and add whatever animations you would want. So all you have to know is, what do I want it to start off as, and how do I want to finish the animation? So it allows you to go in and sort of be creative with how you want to do it without having to change or overwrite the actual CSS there.
I like that because it's not just expanding the offerings in terms of these animations, but setting up a framework whereby anybody who wants to add anything can just use your kind of method, and there we go, have another option. That's cool.
Exactly. So yeah, so that was the first part of the pull request. That's what it sort of started out as.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I just sort of used the same pull request to work on the accessibility of the site, in that we were using JavaScript to pull this type of animation here, where when you click on it, it moves over and then shows the proper content or whatever.
Yes.
It's very intuitive and whatnot, but the only issue comes from if you are someone who is browsing with JavaScript disabled. So you can just go in and do that and refresh this here.
So to be clear, what's happening here is we're using JavaScript to switch the classes on the parent, and then it'll slide because of the class, and there's a CSS transition in between. And what so what are you doing here?
So what I've done, and I actually have two separate solutions here. One is nicer in terms of the usability, but a lot less nice from the back-end perspective, and vice versa. So basically what I've done is I've tried to mimic the same type of animation using just CSS. So the one is, if you click on it here, I have to refresh that because click on it here and it shows this sort of generic message and whatever content you would like to be displayed there.
Okay, so the initial project, it's not going to switch projects for you. It'll just show you the default project and then give you a notification at the top of the project.
Yeah, and so basically it is pulling in from, where we were. In the settings down here, I've just defined this YAML variable.
It's a bit cheeky.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, and you can have this say whatever you want. In fact, you could pull in all of your images or whatnot. And so that's the first solution that I came up with. And it's not that hard to implement in terms of the code. But again, it's not, like, from a user's perspective, no matter which project they're clicking on, they get the same sort of message. So it's nice because you've taken some consideration to, if they don't have the JavaScript, like they can still see something with your work, but obviously not as ideal as with JavaScript. Now the other solution that I've come up with, again, it's more complicated on the back end, but if you click on it, it'll actually pull up the proper project. And if I click over to another one, it'll pull this one in as well. And so again, this is running completely with just plain CSS, or well, defined in Sass, but no JavaScript's needed to do this effect here. And so, I mean, it's, yeah.
So how are you pulling in the projects with that one without using JavaScript?
So pulling, I'll go over the first is the slide animation on both of them. So just what pulls the divs back and forth.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Is actually using labels and checkboxes in HTML in a sort of hacky type way. Mm-hmm. So if I go into, where are we here? Yeah, no. There we go. So yeah, in my work .html file, at the top here, what I've done is I have put in radio buttons corresponding to each project, and just given them a class of trigger, and so there's just one that corresponds to each of the thumbnails, and then added one additional one here that will correspond to the back button, right? Mm-hmm. And so those are added in as extra markup, and then from the actual thumb unit, so the, where are we here? So these different pictures or boxes there, I've wrapped those in an HTML label, and the label is for each one of these radio buttons. So basically what will happen is when you click on the each one of these, it will select one of the radio buttons that corresponds to the, or has the same ID as whatever this for tag is.
Yes.
So there's a label, and then I've also wrapped this back button over here with the label that corresponds to the extra radio button here, right? And so then where the actual transitions happen comes from the a CSS selector called checked. And so basically you can style based on whether or not a checkbox or a radio button is actually checked. And so what I've done here is when it's checked, I move the work belt to left negative 100%. And when it's not checked, it returns to its default state. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we get the slide going back and forth, is because these labels check these radio buttons, which I've hidden, but I can actually, if we just remove the hidden, you can actually see a little bit better how it would work out there. So when you click one, it actually will check one of the radio buttons, and based on which radio button is checked, if it's this one that's checked, it'll return the buttons have just been programmed to slide over to the left 100%. Yeah. So in both of the solutions, that's how the sliding back and forth works out.
Now let me say two things about that. Number one, on line 11, that tilde there in between those two selectors.
Right.
Would you mind going back to the code? Okay. Yeah. That's an adjacent sibling selector, and that's like kind of what makes the magic work there. Right. And for more information about this, and to see an example of this using a kind of like in a navigation, like sliding out navigation, check out this other video that's on PHP Academy that I did a long time ago, and the link to that video will be in the notes. And we're using the same principles involved here, and it's a really clever way of doing it. I think that's really cool. I'm really, really interested in how you did the projects.
Okay, so yeah. So the projects, like I said, requires quite a little bit more complexity on the back end. So the first thing that I had to do was, because Jekyll's very picky about where you're including from, I actually had to replicate the work folder within the includes file so that we can actually, with Jekyll, pull in the different projects that we want in there.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't really impact you on once you actually rendered your site. So the only annoying part would be maintaining the 2 copies, but it's not a huge.
Well, we could rewrite to where we're using the included work for the regular version, you know.
Oh yeah, that's true too. But so anyways, so the work's been moved into there, and it's just the same files that were being used before. And then within the work.html, I have the same radio buttons at the top, and then the same labels as well, wrapping them. And then down in the work wrap section here, I have a NoScript tag, which basically will only render if the person has JavaScript disabled. And browsers treat this a little bit differently, but what's nice is that most modern browsers will actually just take whatever's in here as plain text if they have JavaScript disabled, so you're not rendering all of this unnecessary HTML in the event that they do have JavaScript enabled. But so within this NoScript, I have a for loop, again, just looping through each one of the projects as is defined within the Jekyll settings. And it's just a div with a class of NoScript as well. The ID is content dash, and then whatever the project folder is. So again, we name those proj1, proj2, proj3, so on. So it would just be content dash whatever. And then the actual content within inside that div is the title with the project name just pulled in, and then this class NoScript load, which is we're then just including project.file. And so what I actually had to do was within the settings.yaml had to add in this file on all of these projects because, again, you can include a variable file so long as the variable name has the entire path in it. And so otherwise I could have, you could change around the folder or whatnot to make it work out the same way, but I've just added this file in to all of them. So basically what we have going is it'll be for each one of our projects, we have all of the content just being pulled in to this NoScript tag and into these separate divs. Now within our Sass, I have hidden the NoScript divs on default, and then I have this for loop here, which will loop through each one of the projects as defined within a Sass variable, which I guess is in this file. So I have this just projects list, which just proj1, proj2, the same as we would have within our Jekyll, but again, I've just pulled it in and hard-coded it into my Sass file here. But so we're looping through each one of those projects and outputting this really nasty selector here where when this ID of project is checked, we're pulling from the work belt and then the work wrap, work container, the NoScript tag, and then we're highlighting that content dash project, which is that, again, it's just that div that we've output pulled all the content in from the Jekyll includes. And then we're just displaying that as a block, as opposed to here it's displayed as none by default. And then for each one, once you check the corresponding checkbox, it will use the selector to display that as a block. So again, really what we're doing here is when I'm clicking on, refresh this, when I click on one of these, taking that particular checkbox with the particular ID, and that ID is triggering which one of the divs should be displayed as a block. but all of those are actually in there rendered currently, and so they're just it's just really a CSS hiding or displaying of elements at this point.
Wow. Bravo, man. That's really cool. I swear, I feel like I'm teaching less and less these days. This is so awesome. So would you say that those two, the animation options and then these kind of like JavaScript fallbacks are the main thrust of your pull request?
Yeah, I'd say that those pretty much cover everything that I did. I mean, there are a couple other just small additions that work. So, for instance, within our JS file here, what I've done is on the work belt function, I'm actually just removing those radio buttons from the rendered HTML using JavaScript, just so that it cleans up the source once it's actually been rendered by the page.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's just getting those two to work using the Sass and HTML, and yeah,
wow.
That's pretty much what the.
I'm impressed. This is really smart. I'm impressed. I like it. All right. Well, if that's it, let's conclude. But I want to say thanks for doing all this. And then after we're done recording this video, let's make a plan to integrate this pull request into the main repo, and that way everybody can benefit from all your hard work.
Awesome.
Cool, man. Do you have anything else you want to say before we're done?
I mean, I guess the only other thing to mention about this whole process here is that, again, it's not perfect. Like, there will be browsers that don't support these types of selectors. And I mean, you can find a list of every browser version that will support this type of thing. But if someone's in IE6, it's still not going to work for them. But it's really when you're designing something or creating something, it's being cognizant of all of the different people that might be coming to see your website. So it's just good to take into consideration every other possibility that you can. So
awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. And then hopefully I can get this video out before next Monday. So we're going to have a few videos this week, actually. So if I don't, then check back Monday, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys then. Keep on hacking. Thanks, Dylan, for keeping it real.